In the past few years, I've seen an explosion in people doing it tough, in particular homeless. What drew me to politics? I see the problems around me. I don't ignore them. I see people struggling, sleeping at bus stops, bushland being destroyed, poor quality houses built, the various major parties making promises and trialling things. It's like, well, that's going to make it worse.
So, Tian, could you sort of tell us a bit about yourself and how long have you been in the Churchlands area for?
So I'm an engineer, mechatronics, computer science, electrical, been in the resources industry for a few years now, before that defence. I've bought a house in Inaloo a few years ago, and in my local area, there's a lot of people doing it tough. And part of the reason of that is the wealth inequality. It's growing, and seeing an increase in homeless people is one of the first signs of that.
Right. Okay. So what is it that you think we should do about that then?
We can change the tax system. Various little tweaks here and there, they're the easy ones, like decreasing rego for people who drive less and increasing rego for people who drive Ferrari, simple things like that, obvious things like that. Then it gets a bit more complicated with stamp duty and incentives to buy houses, but there's a lot we can do there, making homes more affordable. And then demand isn't going to go away. Population is increasing. State government doesn't have control over immigration. We need to increase supply. WA is a massive state. We do have space. We've recently got some new train lines in Perth. The next few years are critical to placing the next few thousand homes in Perth in that ideal location at the end of the tracks and along those new tracks. So we've got some important decisions to make: quality homes, affordable homes, and more.
How seriously do you think that the major parties and perhaps even the minor ones are taking these sorts of issues and what needs to be done?
The major parties want to put a main freight road through a bunch of bushland in the local suburbs here, which is a terrible idea. Traffic's going to get worse. Building bigger roads just doesn't work. It's been proven time and time again. You build it, more people drive on it, traffic, congestion, back to square one. So we need some more creative, evidence-based ideas of how to reduce congestion and to move that freight around a different way. It's less people in cars and safer, more affordable options that don't involve cars.
Why do you think the parties aren't actually listening to the evidence and sort of moving in this direction?
Some parties listen to evidence sometimes when it suits them, but public transport and cycle paths might not be popular with a lot of people, or it's hard to sell. That's one reason. Another reason is, where's the government getting their money from? Who's talking to the government? Obviously in WA, it's a lot of large corporations almost telling the government what to do. So I think it's better government transparency with lobbying and donations would help clear the way and help voters understand who's really making decisions.
Well, certainly the idea that the government is responding to lobbyists and particularly lobbyists on behalf of corporations, I guess that's certainly a concern I've noticed a lot of people have. So, okay, so what are some other issues that perhaps you can think of that are of concern to you and I would imagine of concern to Western Australian voters as well?
So yeah, government transparency is a pretty big one. But coming back to the traffic one, it also links into the health system with ambulance rampings and things like that. So building the bigger hospital, bigger and bigger in the same spot, isn't going to work. We need to spread out the healthcare available so people don't have to go as far, go as long, get the healthcare they need.
I think, yeah, another issue facing Australians is cost of living and how that's getting more difficult now. I suppose you were saying earlier you were talking about homelessness, so I guess that is a bit of a part of the picture. But do you have anything particular to add to that story of the cost of living issues that a lot of Australians are experiencing at the moment?
Other places that can help would be incentives to buy equipment for houses that reduce living costs over time. So solar panels is an easy one. Reduce your power bills over time. Some people need a little bit help with that upfront cost, and there's lots of different ways the government can do that, whether it be proposed like a loan or just a cash incentive or a tax discount, whatever it could be. There's some solid numbers on how that can help people in the long term, and many other simple things like insulating homes better, so the AC bill isn't crazy over summer. And then at the top end of town, the one percenters and that kind of thing, I think they can pay a bit more their fair share. When I say the wealth inequality is rising, is because everyone is competing against the wealthy and the ultra wealthy, boosting their property portfolios. The bottom end of town really struggling to make that first deposit, working really hard and saving so much, and then they're priced out of the market by people who have multiple properties.
Yes, because I know one of the things that you've expressed concern about is the idea that you subsidise people purchasing houses. And, one of the things from my own, I'm not qualified in economics, but one of the thoughts that I've heard is that, if you subsidise demand, you will just push up prices. If you are going to subsidise things, you need to subsidise supply, and that will increase supply, and then the prices will drop. But I think a lot of us are sort of familiar with the first home buyers grant, and I won't say that it put up the prices by exactly that amount, but it's sort of like, probably put up the prices of housing about 80 or 90% of that first home buyers grant, and really people just ended up right back where they started, because you pour money into the system in that way, and it just really it does make things worse. So there are much smarter ways of doing these things, and it's amazing how many governments just seem to miss the bigger picture, I guess.
That's what drew me to Fusion: fact-based policy, evidence-based policy.
Because
Solid understanding of the issue, trusting experts, trusting science, and then making decisions from there.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll leave you to it. Tian Carrie-Wilson, the Fusion endorsed candidate for church lands.
Authorised by Owen Miller for the Fusion Party, Brunswick, Victoria.